that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the famous Tom Fennell.
Hello.
I introduce you that way every day. Maybe I should come up with something new. This is the famous George Harvey and Tom. So every day, as I'm sure those people who watch this program already know and don't need to hear and are tired of listening to, every day I get onto the internet and I look at news relating to energy and climate change, and every news item I get I find interesting. I put together a synopsis of about 50 to 55 words and a link to the original article, and I assemble 10 to 15 of these and put them up on my blog, which is geoharvey, geoharvey.wordpress.com.
Type in Geo, it'll probably come up.
Well, you know, if you type in my name, George Harvey, and energy, you will get not only these shows, but also that blog.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to find. It's not like the other blog I've got, you know, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to We Folk.
Yeah.
Where if you type in...
We Folk?
No, if you type in history of counterpoint and harmony, you'll get that on the first page.
I'm not even going to question that.
There's an article there on the history of counterpoint and harmony from a we folk point of view, but there's a lot of other stuff there, and everybody stay away from it, because if you look at it, you'll think I'm crazy as I'll get out. Anyway, we put together the most interesting of the materials that go up on the blog and bring them to you in Energy Week, which starts on the time frame for it starts on Thursday morning and it ends on Thursday. Actually, it ends on the following Wednesday. Today being the 7th of July, this is when we're recording this show and not when you're watching it, because it never comes out the day that it's recorded.
Yeah, I guess the first time you can see it is Monday, isn't it?
No,
Saturday?
Sometimes it's Monday, but very often it's Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And of course, you can get it on the internet as soon as it goes up, which can be on the same day it's recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that in an hour show,
Yeah.
we can't talk very in depth about some of the articles, and some of these things are very interesting.
Some of them
And they got some really good stuff behind it.
Yeah.
So if you see an article here that you are interested in,
Yep.
go to geoharvey.com and click on the link.
.wordpress.com.
At WordPress.com.
.wordpress.com. And you'll find, you can go to the date, because there's a calendar there. You can look at the calendar and say, well, I heard that this was on the 5th of July, and you can click on the 5th of July and you'll see 10 to 15 articles, and the article that you're looking for hopefully will be one of them.
Well, some of them are really well worth following up on, because there's so much. Some of these articles are so in depth.
Yeah, and many of them the link actually works.
We'll talk about that.
It's really hard. On some occasions, it's really hard to know whether the link is going to work, because I log on to the thing from a search engine, and some websites, they say, oh, this is a search engine coming in, I'll let it happen. And then when I get a link to the original article, if I follow that, it'll say, oh, this guy's been here before today, or in some cases before this week. And then at the end of the time, it'll say, I'm not going to let him in anymore.
Oh, boy.
So there are links up there that don't work. But
not many, but there are a few.
There are a few.
Frustrating.
Yeah. And I actually have written publications like Business Green, for example. Their policy is that they will let you in for a free trial period, and it's easy to sign up. So if you click, you are asked to sign up for the trial, and if you sign up, you can get to the article. But unfortunately, the trial period is 2 weeks or something, and after that,
they want money.
They want money. So if you've been to Business Green before, and I try to avoid even that, because it's kind of like the Brattleboro Reformer. I try to avoid any article that's in the Brattleboro Reformer.
They take them off.
They unless you've got a subscription after a week, and who has?
Oh, you need to have a subscription.
After a week, you need a subscription.
Because I know I've looked up articles and it's taken off.
Yeah,
they can't. They leave They can't even leave them here a week?
Yeah, and well, they
I
leave
see what
them up
their
for
method to their madness is.
But the problem, the point is, and a lot of the people who watch this show watch it from, some different state. We've got people watching it from Texas and California and so forth, and I'm not going to ask them to figure out that the Brattleboro Reformer is in Vermont, so or pay for it.
I think this is the only Brattleboro in the world.
That's my understanding.
There's an Attleboro, but I don't think there's a Brattleboro.
No, there's no other Brattleboro. I'm thinking that maybe I should go to Mongolia and found a town called Brattleboro, just to be mean. Anyhow, here we are at Energy Week, and we are starting the show on the 30th of June, which was last Thursday, and our first article has a picture associated with it. And my little computer here is saying, I'm not going to give it to you. Come on. There we go. No. It refuses. It refuses. There we go. Try it. There we go. By golly. Okay, this is from Yale Environment 360.
Now, you can't read what it says on the bottom of that picture, but it's a 2.3 megawatt floating solar array in Kasai City, Japan.
Yeah,
we've talked about this one before because I know that I remember the picture.
We've talked about one that was similar, at least.
What are those white things?
The white things, I don't know. I think they're electric. If you look a little bit to the left and up from the center, you'll see two people. And they look like they're servicing. I think they're boxes where electric connections are made. But what's the title of the article, Tom?
Floating solar, a win-win for drought-stricken lakes in the U.S.
Yeah, obviously this is proposed for the United States.
They are calling these things photovoltaics.
Photovoltaics. Floating PV projects are increasingly used around the world. One prime spot for them could be the U.S. Southwest, where they could prevent evaporation in major man-made reservoirs at the same time that they make energy. And by the way, they're particularly good in a place like that because the fact that the PVs are so close to the water means they're kept cool.
They operate more efficiently.
They're more efficient.
Well, in the southwest of the U.S.,
yeah,
on the Colorado River, there's Lake Mead and Lake Powell.
Right.
Very large reservoirs.
Yep, with very big bathtub rings.
With very big, which we have seen.
Yeah.
But, they're feeding places like Las Vegas. They need that water.
Yep.
And if it evaporates, that's money out the window.
Yeah.
That's
right.
So it's very important that, very useful.
Yeah, very useful.
They can preserve this energy.
And there it is. There's a solution to several problems all at once. Our next item is from Green Tech Media. What do you have there, Tom?
I don't have a picture on that one, but
there is no
the end of the era of baseload power plants.
This is a particularly interesting article, I think. This is
it's how would you say it? It's iconic.
Yes, it is. This is PG&E's plan to close the Diablo Canyon nuclear plant marks a historic transition for the electric power industry. While it ends nuclear power in California, it also ushers in an entirely new paradigm. You know the word paradigm?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be.
I dig it.
Yeah, right. It's supposed to be pronounced paradigm for all of you who like to point fingers and say that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's a new paradigm for our electric system.
Well,
I think paradigm
what it's saying
sounds
here
better.
is a low carbon future is now possible because the costs of solar and wind have declined dramatically over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and I think this is something that is really worth discussing. PG&E has decided to replace the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant because
which is a big one.
It's big.
10% of California's electricity.
That's a lot of power. And they're going to replace it with solar, wind, and battery backup, or some other kind of backup. They didn't even mention natural gas in the release it came from. And what they're saying is we've already got to a point where it is very clear that nuclear power is too expensive, even if the plant is already built. Mm-hmm. And it's cheaper to do wind power with battery backup than it is to do nuclear. And the wind power with battery backup does not have a whole bunch of problems associated with the nuclear, like decommissioning. So, this is and what the point of the article is, we're looking at the question of, do we need baseload power?
They answer it. The era of baseload power is coming to an end.
Coming to an end. And the reason...
The paradigm has shifted.
Yes, that's right. It has shifted. Notice that this is in the past tense. It has shifted, and all we've got to do is catch up with the technology that we've already produced. Okay, now our next item comes from the Times of San Diego.
We got a
And that's
picture.
not a very good picture, unfortunately. I'm sorry for that.
Well, I'll bring it up
It's
to see what it
not
looks like.
very high resolution. So,
And that picture says solar panels during installation at a San Diego home.
That's right.
La-di-da.
huh?
La-di-da.
La-di-da. But what's the title for the...
San Diego
Yeah.
is the first region in California to reach 5% private solar milestone.
Private solar.
Private, yeah.
Private. This is not utility
It's
scale.
on top of people's roofs.
That's right. The San Diego region reached a milestone on Wednesday as private rooftop solar power produced 5% of the city's peak electric demand. The San Diego Gas and Electric and major solar installers cheered the milestone in what has become a billion-dollar local industry. And that's kind of impressive. I mean, they haven't built the whole thing out, but it is impressive that they've done that. By the way,
What's there now is 90,000 private solar rooftop installations in
Right.
the San Diego area.
right,
Wow.
solar power in Vermont could produce rooftop solar, just rooftop solar, could give us about half of the power that we need at current demand levels.
But we don't have any.
We don't have any. That's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. The US DOE seems to think that they don't have any need to count any solar that's bigger than 5 megawatts. So, of course, the utility scale solar in Vermont doesn't exist. It's invisible. Anyway, we're up
We've
to...
got another picture here.
We have another picture. This is, let's see, Friday. And the picture is a picture of smokestacks. And we don't, I guess that's, but what's the title here?
Coal is literally killing us.
Yeah. Taken together, the Clean Power Plan's reductions in atmospheric pollutants associated with coal would reduce problems of heart disease, asthma, and other diseases enough to save a whopping $38 billion a year in the United States. $38 billion a year.
You can't really measure the impact on people's lives.
It's killing people. It's killing people.
And the takeaway here is we actually have a chance to save thousands of lives every year and to vastly improve tens of thousands more by cutting coal from our energy diet.
Well, I think it's, honestly, this is from the Natural Resources Defense Council. I think they're wrong.
It's higher than that.
I think that it's not just higher, but much higher. The estimates that came from the World Health Organization say that fossil fuels are killing people at a rate of about 7 million a year worldwide, and that's another person roughly every 8.5 seconds. I know, it was the International Energy Agency says that, no, it's a little slower than that. It's more like one person every 10.5 seconds. But, Citigroup says that we're spending somewhere around $7 trillion a year worldwide on health issues relating to fossil fuels. And that's...
somebody's paying for that.
Somebody is paying for it, mostly in taxes and medical insurance, but it's not being paid for by people who are earning $2 a day, except with their health and lives. They're not paying for it out of pocket.
And the power companies aren't paying for it either.
No. And neither is the fossil fuels industry, which is one of the reasons why we've got problems with the fossil fuels industry.
Money talks.
Money talks. Okay, we're up to Natural Gas Intelligence gave us this.
I couldn't get this one up. First off, it's a bad link.
Oh dear.
But second of all, I did manage to go around it and find it,
Yeah.
and they gave me a nice message. You're accessing an NGI subscriber-only area.
This is what we were talking about earlier, because I checked this and it was.
So I can't tell you much about this. So you're
Okay,
gonna
well,
have to
I'll
explain
read
to
what
us.
it says. The North American Climate, Energy, and Environmental Partnership announced on Wednesday in Ottawa. What it announced has much to say about clean energy generation, renewable energy, and efficiency, but barely a word about natural gas, save for methane emissions reduction goals. The methane emissions are a serious problem. Methane
It's
produces.
worse than carbon dioxide.
Yeah, it's about depending on the time frame that you're working with. Methane.
So
is,
we're talking about methane emissions from mining and from fracking and from leaks.
Right, and from fracking it can be very big.
Yeah,
they can
and
lose.
nobody knows about it.
Yeah, they can lose a third of the gas they get out of the ground.
Well, didn't we have an article here where some pilot was flying around and he had his infrared on and he said, "Holy cow! Here's this big black plume of smoke that I never saw coming up there."
I
and
think we did.
It
Yeah,
was
that was.
methane.
Yeah, it was methane.
He wouldn't have seen it with his eyes, but he
Yeah.
had his infrared on.
Infrared. And it's a serious problem. Methane, depending on the time frame, is 20 times to 100 times as bad as carbon dioxide. It breaks down, but it takes a long time to break down, decades.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. And we have wildcatting companies that have gone out and opened up these fracking wells and are just losing the gas. But of course, the conventional use of natural gas loses it. We talked several weeks ago about a group of students in it wasn't Northeastern, I forget what university it was, but it was in Boston, and they drove a car with a methane detector on every street in Boston and found 3,600 leaks.
I vaguely remember that one.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and
nobody even thinks about that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it was the Natural Resources Defense Council decided that they wanted to double check, and they did exactly the same experiment and found 4,000 leaks. Wow. Anyway, sorry that link doesn't work, but we're up to an article from the Digital Journal.
Well, you got to be sorry again because this link didn't work either.
Oh no! Wow.
But I found my way around this one.
Okay.
So the National Grid completes a Seashore 2 cable.
Yeah, this has been widely reported in the news, and this particular cable is important. It runs for a bunch of reasons. It runs from Rhode Island to the Block Island wind farm, which has got 5 turbines.
To the wind farm, right?
And then it runs from there to Block Island.
And then back to the...
Yeah, and what this is doing is it's there, so this little 5 turbine, 30 megawatt wind farm can produce power that will supply the people at Block Island.
Mm-hmm. Better than the diesel they're using.
They've been using diesel. It's noisy, it's messy, it's polluting, and it costs 54 cents a kilowatt hour.
Wow, that's expensive.
Yeah,
so what's it costing for the diesel?
I don't know.
I bet it's more than that.
Oh, no, the diesel was 54.
Oh, okay.
But this wind farm will cut their costs by 40%.
Okay,
and
so now we got some numbers.
Yeah, yep. and the reason why it's still a very high number is because they had to lay this submarine cable in, and that's expensive.
I read about it. It was made by a Korean company.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who is that?
I don't remember. Well, some Korean name. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I never heard of the company. But,
okay.
And when I was in the cable business, these guys weren't selling over here.
Yeah.
I think our biggest competitor was Pirelli,
okay,
Italian company.
Okay.
But the Koreans weren't getting it.
And who were you working for?
Simplex Wire and Cable.
Okay. This is a 20-mile long underwater cable that runs.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. It runs from Rhode Island to Block Island, and it provides much less expensive and probably more reliable power to Block Island. The excess power beyond what Block Island is using is going to be going to the mainland, and when for any reason the wind farm can't run, it means that mainland power sources can supply Block Island. So this is
that's a secondary benefit of this. Yeah, so Block Island is now connected to the grid.
Yep. So that's an important thing. That was the, now we're up to Saturday, July 2nd. And our
Well,
next
this link worked.
Good. This next one is from Science Magazine.
North American energy deal places focus on Mexico.
Now, this is the deal we reported last week where the presidents of the United States and Mexico and the Prime Minister of Canada agreed that we should get 50% of our power from our electric power from renewables by 2025, which seems like a very short amount of time to get to that. But Canada's already at about 80%.
So we're catching up.
We're catching up.
Mexico is behind.
And Mexico is behind. So what we're doing is we're committing ourselves to catching up. And Mexico committed themselves to catch up big time.
Picture up.
That's right. We have a picture which is behind us there in the. But let's let people see it.
They should see it.
It's not a picture of a wind farm. It's a picture of a Mexican cow. Anyway, I should say a Mexican bovine.
How do you say moo in Spanish?
Moo? I don't know. I used to work with a group of Puerto Ricans, and they would go out and get chicken with that yellow rice, seasoned rice.
Saffron rice.
Saffron rice, which is really very nice. And they would come in and say, they called it cocoroco. Which is Spanish for cock-a-doodle-doo.
Well, we got the picture here. These wind farms are on the Isthmus, I'll try this word, Tehuantepec.
I think you pronounced it perfectly.
Which is the southern part of Mexico that borders both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
Okay. North American deal places focus in Mexico, although Canada already far exceeds its own goals under this deal. For the trilateral pledge to generate half of North America's electricity from carbon-free sources by 2025, the United States has a clear path forward. Mexico faces a number of major hurdles. This is from Science Magazine. And they do have hurdles, but they're also already working on this.
Well,
they've got good solar resources.
They got some archaic laws that they got to get over. And then not only are laws bad, but they're not enforcing them.
Well, that's one of those things.
But they're opening up an opportunity here for smaller, decentralized, renewable energy providers.
Isn't that nice? And that's the paradigm of the future.
Well, I hope it is, really. It's a good paradigm.
I wonder how many people are going to pick that pronunciation up. I had an acquaintance who couldn't wrap his head around the way the word is spelled, and he kept saying paradigm. and I was saying, no, just call it paradigm. People will laugh, and they'll let you off for the mistake.
Well, we got another picture coming.
We do indeed, and it's this is from Science Magazine. This is from Saturday, July 2nd.
Let our people try and guess what that picture is.
Oh, it looks an awful lot like something I've seen before.
Well, the caption is, healing is detected in the Antarctic ozone hole.
Yeah. Researchers say they found the first clear evidence that the thinning in the ozone layer above Antarctica is starting to heal.
This is good news.
It is. Scientists said that in September 2015, this hole was about 4 million square kilometers smaller than it was in the year 2000. This is an area roughly the size of India, which has
I looked this one up because I didn't know how big India was, but it's twice the size of Alaska.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
It's about as big as the U.S. is west of the Mississippi.
Wow. I didn't know
It is pretty big.
I didn't realize it was that big.
I didn't either till I checked it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, they've got, 1 billion people there? They've got
I think they got more than a billion, but there's a lot of people in India.
A lot of people in India. My brother went there and he came back and he said, George, you'd love India. And then he paused for a second. He said, George, you'd hate India. And it's because I don't like crowds very much, you know. But he was thinking that I think there are a lot of things about India I would really enjoy seeing, but I don't think I'd enjoy the crowds.
If you don't remember what the story of the ozone hole was all about, the ozone was keeping some of the ultraviolet
Right.
under control.
Yep.
And with the ozone hole, which was getting pretty big,
Yep.
it was creating skin cancer, cataract damage,
Yep. And
parts of humans, animals, and plants. It
Yep.
was not good.
This is something that's all over the world. It's not just the hole at the South Pole. It's all over the world that the ozone has
It's
been
just
thinned.
more concentrated
Yeah,
there
and
for some crazy reason.
It's something you can see more clearly in the Antarctic regions. But people are more prone to getting skin cancer and things like that than they were 50 years ago, partly because
Anywhere.
of UV light that comes in, which is why you're told, part of the reason why you're told to use
a lot of
UV
skin
blocks.
blockers, yeah.
But the other thing too is that this happened because of gases that got into the atmosphere.
And much of them were coming from discarded refrigerators.
Yeah.
So we've changed the gas that
Right.
we use
Yep.
in refrigerators and air conditioners.
You know,
and that
when I
kind of
think
stuff.
about that, every time I think about that, I think about ammonia-powered absorption refrigerators, the ones that make cold out of heat.
Mm-hmm.
And what a! I'm not going to go into it now, but that item, by the way, came from the BBC, and our next one is on Sunday, July 3rd, and it comes from the Alaska Dispatch News. And I think we have a slide on this
a very
one, too.
interesting article. Aleutian seabirds are showing the effects of a changing marine ecosystem. So they're studying seabirds,
Yep.
but what they're really looking at
Is the ecosystem. And we have a picture here, Tom. We could put that up.
I do have
This
a
is
picture. Yep, let me bring it
for
up
some
there.
reason, I really love these pictures of the sea.
This is a nice picture.
This is a nice picture. This is a research vessel, and well, anyway, what the thing reads: an ecology professor at the University of Alaska Anchorage is leading a long-term project to examine seabirds, what they eat, and how that reflects ocean conditions in a rapidly warming climate. Increasingly, their diets have included large quantities of plastic particles that float in the waters of the Bering Sea, and these birds are suffering as a result of that.
And they have very little idea of what these plastic particles are actually doing and how they can get rid of them.
Yeah,
It's a problem they're just starting to.
They're starting to, yeah. Now there may be solutions to the plastic problems that we've got. Polystyrene, which includes styrofoam,
breaks down.
and well, it can be broken down by microbes. They have found out.
Yeah.
There are microbes in the guts of mealworms, normally in the guts of mealworms, that break down polystyrene, which means mealworms can eat polystyrene and get nutrients out of it.
That's interesting.
And this is something that and there's another microbe that will work on, I think it's polyethylene, but
Why is it? Polyethylene is virtually indestructible.
Oh.
I hope they get something for
well,
that.
you know, yeah, and unfortunately, I'm not all that in favor of genetic engineering. In fact, I'm really not in favor of genetic engineering. But I know that they're going to be doing genetic engineering with these guys to try to figure out a way to get rid of every plastic we've got.
All genetic engineering isn't necessarily bad.
No,
But
I
a
don't.
lot of it is.
But the thing that
And it's all about money.
it's all about money. The thing that bothers me about genetic engineering is you create a microbe that does a specific thing, and then you let it out in the soil.
And there may be second order consequences.
There may be, and one of the things, for example, that they've been doing genetic engineering on is how do you get oil to burn in cars, to burn in houses for fuel? How do you get oil from things that you could compost? Well, if you do
There
that,
are microbes that'll do this.
yeah, and if they get out into the environment, all of a sudden we've got oil everywhere. And that stuff is really bad for you. Okay, so
I just wanted to mention this. This is a really good in-depth article.
yeah, it is.
There's all sorts of pictures. You could spend a day just looking at the pictures. This is a really good
Unfortunately,
article.
and this comes out in the article, the only way they can study the birds is to shoot them.
Unfortunately.
But they don't kill a lot of birds. They kill a very few, and
And they kill them legally.
They kill them legally. They're legally hunting the birds with a shotgun. So
Well, there's a little takeaway here.
Yeah.
With few foxes and rats, the Aleutians claim status as a birding paradise.
yeah,
Scientists zero in on the birds, what they are eating, and where they are finding their foods. A very good indicator of what is going on in the entire ecosystem.
right. And
So that's what they're really trying to do here.
I should point out, by the way, we've mentioned this before. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds did a survey of seabird populations, and they partnered with this with a number of universities around the world, and they came to the conclusion that our seabird populations have declined very largely because of our use of, and misuse of fossil fuels. They have declined 70% in the last 60 years. This is a
70% in how many years?
60 years.
60. I thought you said 6.
No. And the other thing is the Audubon Society says if we don't get a handle on climate change, we could lose 50% of our North American bird species, and that possibly includes the bald eagle and the Baltimore oriole. These are serious problems.
They're both in trouble.
We've got, well, neither one of them is registered as being
I haven't
trouble,
seen an oriole
but-
since I was a kid.
Well, you don't see a lot of those. I'll tell you what I have seen was an oriole built a nest in a bush that I walked by.
An oriole nest is super.
They are so amazing. I felt like cutting the bush out,
like a
the
sack.
nest out. Yeah, it's like a big sack. It's beautiful. But of course I wouldn't do that because of two things, one of which is that the oriole might still be using the nest, and the other of which is the person who owns the bush might be upset if I stole it. Anyway, our
Moving right along.
next up is from stuff.co.nz. NZ is a New Zealand thing. Yeah. So what's the title on this one?
Worried about dirty energy? Get into an electric car.
How about that? Working out how to use some of New Zealand's vast stores of renewable energy to fuel the transportation sector. Maybe the country's next big challenge. Renewable energy now contributes about 82% of New Zealand's electricity, but the picture is not quite so rosy when you look at the country's total energy use. And,
this is, according to the article, largely because of heavy reliance on fossil fuels for vehicles.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Same thing here. And it's
Working
also
out how to get more renewable energy into the transport sector is a key challenge for New Zealand. For here too.
For here too. And of course you've got other areas where we've got the same problem, which is home heating. We've talked a lot about home heating and heat pumps and things like that, but how do you deal with cars? And
well, we got to go electric. That's the answer.
We have to go electric, and honestly, I think we've got to go much more heavily into public transportation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of verboten because it's socialism, but it works pretty well.
Socialism. It could be. What is it that guy says? Whoops.
What?
Our backward
What has
system.
done happened here?
I kicked it.
Yeah,
I kicked a cable and it went out.
Trying to get that picture.
Who was it in
I can get the picture back up.
In Catch 22, there was a guy named Milo Minderbinder, and he said he had this organization. He said everybody owns a share.
Yeah.
And somebody was saying, no, that's socialism. And he said, no, this is a free market enterprise system.
Uh-huh.
Everybody owns a share.
Uh-huh.
And he got people to do all kinds of things because they owned shares. And the same thing is true of transportation.
I was thinking about this as I was doing it last night. It's a mindset problem.
Yeah.
We don't have a charging station on every street corner like we got a gas station.
Yeah.
And that's affecting the way people think about it.
It is, and the
we
fact
don't
that
need one.
Yes.
You're going to use it to commute 10 miles a day to work.
Yeah.
You don't need to refill that tank every day.
That's right.
You could fill it on a Sunday afternoon while you're watching the ball
And
game.
you can fill it at home.
And you can fill it at home, exactly.
And if you're filling it at home, you can get it from your own solar panels if you've got a place to put them.
So it's costing you nothing.
Yeah. How about that?
Well, something has to happen to change the people's perceptions.
Absolutely.
to include these things. 'Cause
Yes, that's right.
They're just not
That's right. And
part of the paradigm.
the thing is, not part of the paradigm. We're in a changing time, and the price of gas is not always going to be low. It's going to get high again at some point. It'll probably be outrageously high at some point before the current batch of cars we've got on the road has all become obsolete. In fact, it may be the thing that makes them obsolete.
People are very fickle about that.
Yeah,
right now, everybody's buying big pickup trucks. And 2 years from now, the price is going to be $4 a gallon again.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not 2 years. I'm not making a prediction, but it is going up, as you said.
Yep. Our next item comes from the Santa Fe New Mexican, and this is an interesting item because of the amount of money and what it's buying.
This is the second such article that we've talked about
in
here.
Like 2 weeks
in
or
2
3 weeks. Yeah.
A Taos co-op pays $37 million to sever a contract with Tri-State, which is their local utility.
Yeah. The Kit Carson Electric Cooperative agreed to pay $37 million to get out of a wholesale power contract with Tri-State Generation and Transmission, which it blames for holding back renewable energy development. Under the contract, the co-op could generate only 5% of its own power from solar sources.
Is that 5% or is that 0.5%?
That is 5%. And what they're doing is they're saying, yes, we will pay you $37 million to let us out of this contract so we can put up solar and make our own power. Does this tell you something about how cheap solar is?
Well, they plan to buy electricity from a Florida-based power marketer.
How about that?
For the next 10 years.
They're in New Mexico. They're going to get their solar power from Florida.
Yeah.
Except there isn't a lot of solar power in Florida. They're probably going to be getting it from Texas. But nevertheless,
the guy in Florida is just pushing buttons.
I think that's what it is. We've got a new paradigm here, folks.
Yeah, we do.
We're up to Monday, July 4th, and our first item on the 4th of July is from the Electric Co-op Today.
Southeast Hydro projects get $1.2 billion boost.
Yeah, this picture is a picture of the Wilbur Dam, which belongs to the TVA.
The TVA.
And the synopsis here is more than $1.2 billion will go to upgrading aging hydropower projects in the Southeast under an agreement signed by federal agencies, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and an association representing customers. It aims to modernize projects along the Cumberland River over the next 20 years. And
I looked up what the Cumberland River was.
Yes.
It almost forms the border between Kentucky and Tennessee.
Okay.
The border is flat and straight.
Yeah.
It's a straight line, and the river goes
up and down.
Up and down. It's almost forming the border. I
Yeah.
guess at one time it probably was the border.
Might have been.
But
Anyway.
it drains almost all of southern Kentucky and north central Tennessee.
Right.
The TVA built the dams
Yep.
probably for flood control.
Yes. Flood control and electricity.
They put in electricity. They're feeding the power to more than 150 co-ops. These must be all small co-ops.
Yeah.
And municipal systems.
Yes.
And there's 8 dams that the engineers built quite a while ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago or so.
Yeah. So we've got co-ops and municipal systems that own all the distribution, which means that we've got hundreds of socialist socialist organizations.
I don't know if co-ops are socialists. But
somebody's going to call them socialist. You know that. Co-op.
But they did something there a long time ago that they're going to be doing here, and we've spoken about it already, with the dams on the Connecticut River.
Right.
They're there. It just makes sense.
It makes sense. Our next item is from Science 2.0. Got a title on this one?
I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, let me get some pictures up here. But okay, household fuels exceed power plants and cars as the source of smog in Beijing.
Yeah, well, household fuels, that means kerosene, but more to the point, coal, because they burn a lot of
burning coal inside of their kitchen.
Yeah, in their kitchens. Households account for 18% of total energy use in the Beijing region, but produce 50% of black carbon emissions and 69% of total of organic carbon emissions, according to research.
I guess that's coal and wood.
Yeah. Research by institutions including Princeton University, the University of California, Berkeley, Peking University. It's interesting that they would have Peking as opposed to Beijing, but and Tsinghua University. So this is a pattern that exists a lot in northern China, where people have been, in many places, been given free coal to heat their homes.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why the pollution in China is so bad.
Well, nobody's thinking about pollution coming from inside people's homes, but taken together, it's very significant.
Yes, it is. Yeah, indeed, it is. Should we go on to
I guess we
Energy
can, yeah.
Digital? What do we have from Energy
A
Digital?
leading Irish solar developer to expand into the U.S. market.
Interesting. Irish renewable energy developer BNRG has pledged $200 million to develop solar energy in the United States. Local developers in New England and Oregon have given BNRG the rights to develop 140 megawatts of utility-scale solar energy. The construction and installation are scheduled to begin next year. One of the things that I think is interesting is they're putting up $200 million to get 140 megawatts. That is less than $1.50 a watt.
Yeah.
And
what does it normally cost?
well, when we started doing the show, it was over $5.
$5 a watt.
No, it was over $4.
$4.
So
okay, so it's down below half.
Yeah, and the Sunshot Initiative wants to bring it down to under $1. And at $1.50 a watt, we're already in a position where solar power is so cheap that it's really out competing natural gas, even with the fracking.
A little back information here. Yeah. There's an Irish environmentalist named David McGuire.
Yes.
And he's well known over there. And he started this company not so much to operate in Ireland, but to operate outside of Ireland. He's big in England right now, or big in the UK. And he decided to expand it to the U.S. energy market after Congress opted to extend the renewable investment tax credit.
Right.
So that's working.
It's working, yeah. And that credit is going down every year. So in 5 years, it'll be gone. And the renewable industry will no longer have tax credits, and the fossil fuels industry will retain the credits and incentives and so forth that it gets.
What it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I looked at the subsidies for renewable energy. Mm-hmm. It is amazing what percentage of them goes to ethanol. It's like,
which is ridiculous.
3/4 of it goes to ethanol.
That's
which
money
in turn,
stuff.
Yeah, but it just goes to the fossil fuels industry.
Exactly. Not only are they growing the ethanol, but they're refining it.
Well, they aren't growing the ethanol.
Well, they're in bed
That's
with
being
those
done by
Archer Daniels Midland.
Archer Daniels Midland to the benefit of Monsanto. I mean,
the power elite wins again.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't think they're going to win forever. Our next item comes from Renews, and I just love this picture.
What a neat little house.
It's not a house, it's a shed, for crying out loud. Look at that. It's a shed in Northumberland.
A stone shed.
Yeah, stone shed. Probably built by
UK to
Vikings.
miss the 2020 renewable energy goals.
Yeah. This is from Renews. Renewable energy development of the UK is advancing well, but slow progress in other sectors means the country will miss its 2020 renewables targets. A National Grid report says the report's most optimistic scenario is that the UK will only consume 12% of its energy from renewables by 2020. And I think, as I recall, it's 15% that they're aiming for, which is really...
It is 15.
Yeah, and who is to blame for this?
It's the government.
It's the government, but it's also England. The Scots are getting so much energy from renewables.
You're absolutely right.
Supporting the rest of the UK.
What is the takeaway about exactly that? The UK government needs to urgently clarify the country's energy policies and regulations to provide developers with the certainty needed to invest in particular technology.
Yeah, and the current government was elected with promises that they would be the greenest government ever, and they would have solar power all over rooftops.
And then done the exact opposite.
They've done the exact opposite. They said no solar on rooftops, or at least not with our support.
Nobody knows what's going to happen in England in the next few years.
This is going to be crazy. Okay,
the Grexit.
Yeah.
The Grexit.
Yeah.
Okay.
The re-Grexit. Clean Technica gave us our next item.
Even at current prices, energy storage makes economic sense for many renewables projects.
Wow, what an idea. Research from MIT says...
Isn't that staggering? Isn't
it? Says various different energy storage options make economic sense at current prices for some renewable energy projects. The energy storage options profiled by the study include battery systems, pumped electric storage, compressed air energy storage, and others including gravity storage on railroads, and you name it. There's so many ways of storing energy. You can't, there's more than
and flywheels?
Flywheels?
Yeah.
You can, more than you can shake a stick at, and that's just the types.
Compressed air underground?
Yeah. And this is this is why we can get our grid completely onto renewable power, in part because the technology to store the power is all there.
Well, everybody's still on a learning curve here.
Yeah.
And it's not that these technologies aren't known. I think they're not well understood. Not well understood.
Down the river, we've said this many times, is the Northfield Mountain Station,
which is very large.
Pumped storage facility that was built at the same time as the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. Its output is double that of the power plant.
That's a lot.
Why was it put there? Because baseload power is a really bad match for grid demand. And it happens that renewable power, a lot of it, sun, wind, you can just say to the wind turbine, we don't need that power now, you're going to furl. And the thing will do it. A nuclear power plant, when it's going, it just has to keep going. It cannot speed up, slow down at will. It's a difficult system. Bad match for grid demand. Our next item comes from ACHR News.
Okay, and this one says renewable energy supplied almost a quarter of global power in 2015.
In 2015, renewable energy accounted for nearly 25% of global electric capacity in 2015, according to a new study by REN21. Renewable power also saw the largest annual increase in capacity ever in 2015. Wind and solar PV had record additions for the year, accounting for about 77% of the new installations.
Well, the world is now adding more renewable power capacity annually than it adds capacity from all fossil fuels combined.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
somebody's getting the word.
Yeah, and as the fossil fuels continue to decline, it won't be very long before you could throw nuclear energy into that mix too. Absolutely. If you can't already.
Absolutely.
You had 10 nuclear power plants added last year. I don't know how many were taken offline, but in the United States, we've got 1 nuclear power plant just coming online this summer, 4 more being built, and we don't know that those 4 are ever going to be finished. The one that came online is coming online. They started building in 1973. They've been building it for 43 years.
Good contract for somebody.
Well, no, they started, they stopped. They started, they stopped. The thing was mothballed. Parts were taken away and used elsewhere. Then they had to bring in new parts. It's crazy. But
somebody made some money on it.
We've got 9 nuclear power plants that are scheduled to close down.
Yeah.
That's
they're already scheduled.
Close down dates are there.
When they're going to close.
Yeah. And the nuclear power industry is out looking for handouts.
Yeah.
And,
we got to keep those nuclear plants going. You got to give us money.
Yeah, right. And as a matter of fact, our next item, it deals with that. This is from Clean Technica. And this is Wednesday, July 6th.
New wind and solar lowers, there should be an S there. New wind and solar lowers greenhouse gas emissions and costs less than keeping aging power plants running.
This is significant. Nuclear plants have estimated fixed costs that range from 5 cents per kilowatt hour to 7 cents per kilowatt hour, depending upon the age and specific reactor. New wind power has unsubsidized costs in the range of 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. At those costs, new wind can produce more greenhouse gas-free electricity cheaper than keeping aging nuclear plants running. It is cheaper to switch to wind than it is to keep existing nuclear power plants running.
Well, I got a takeaway that says exactly that.
And that's even without consideration of the cost of fuel.
This decision was based purely on economics.
Yeah.
Dominion, which is the utility in this article,
Yeah.
was not able to move forward with our plan to grow our nuclear fleet in the Midwest to take advantage of economies of scale.
And they
had plans.
Yeah.
And they said,
They said it ain't going to work. And the specific plant that they're talking about there was Kewaunee, which was a really nice little nuclear power plant.
It was about the smallest one in America.
It was the smallest one in the United States, and it was in Wisconsin, and the local people didn't have any argument with it, and there it was, kind of chugging away, doing its thing, behaving itself, had a license to continue for another 20 years, and Dominion said, this thing isn't making money.
Not making money.
We can't keep it going if it's not going to make money. So,
by the way, this was a very good and long article. If you want
Right.
to look it up, it'll keep you busy for a while.
yeah, this is in Clean Technica. Our next item is from Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And this,
we've
by the
talked
way,
about this guy already.
thanks to
There's going to be a lot to be talked about, this thing,
Right.
in the next few years.
I want to mention that Tad Montgomery sent me this article in an email, so I want to give him thanks for that.
Yeah, he must read Rolling Stone, huh?
I don't know, but he did read the article.
Did Exxon lie about global warming?
did
Well, I know
they?
the answer to that already.
Yeah. In the case against Exxon, plaintiffs do not have to show that the company injured a specific victim or conspired to hide what it knew about climate change, just that Exxon did not tell its own investors the truth about the investment risks of climate change.
That's what's going to get him.
You know what?
That's going to get him. I mean, everything else is bad, but that's going to get him.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I don't think the author of this article really thought through the issue of racketeering.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But nevertheless, what he's saying is, Exxon has been fooling its own investors, and he gave quotes from the last board meeting, which was very recently, and Rex Tillerson, who's the CEO.
There was a lot of guys screaming about it at that board meeting.
Yeah,
There was
Rex Tillerson was saying, "Oh, we're not going to have any stranded assets. We're just going to keep getting fuel out of the ground, and we're going to sell it." And but climate change is important. We have to deal with climate change, but we don't have to worry about this because everybody's going to continue buying our product anyway. And I'm sitting there as I read this saying, what hole has this guy got his head in the ground? He's like the old ostrich thing.
Well, the summary of this article is that the oil giant knew the dangers of climate change.
Yes.
And did everything in its power to deny the threat of a warming planet.
Spending a lot of money.
This is, by the way, a very good article. It's in depth.
This is a long article.
Long, very detailed, a lot of pictures.
They actually came out in favor of a carbon tax in 2009. And in the last 6 months or so, they've started lobbying their own industry to have the carbon tax. Mm-hmm. Now, the carbon tax is a very predictable thing if it can be put in place in a reasonable manner, and it will reduce the amount of product that they are able to sell, but it may increase the time during which they can sell it. So this is not necessarily bad for them. And what...
There's method to their madness.
Oh, yeah. They want to sit at the table. And one of the things I really think that they want to do is they want to say carbon tax should be just carbon, and it should be just carbon emissions from combustion, and it should not include methane at the pump, at the wellhead.
At the wellhead. That's interesting, isn't it?
And we've got to get them for methane at the
They're not going to prevail
wellhead.
on that one.
I don't know. I think they've prevailed on every other thing going. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, yeah, but nobody knew what was going on.
Listen, people, if you want to know about what's going on here, just take this into account. If you look at, if you go to Wikipedia and you go to the list of the largest companies, look at the historic data, look at September 2015. There's 63 companies there. 21 of them are oil and gas. Of the rest of the companies that are listed, one is Koch Industries. Those companies have combined revenues at that time that are about double the budget of the United States federal government. They have revenues that are about 8 times the budget of the U.S. Defense Department. And the amount of money they stand...
8 times the U.S. Defense. Wow!
Do you think these people have got a little bit of power here?
I would say.
And the amount of money they will lose in stranded assets, which Rex Tillerson says, no, we're not going to lose any stranded assets. The amount of money they will lose in stranded assets, according to Citigroup, is $100 trillion, which is about 1.3 times the gross world product. It's about 5 times the U.S. national debt. There's a lot of money riding on this. But
an interesting sideline that I just read yesterday, I think.
Yep.
We've known this, but this particular article, which I didn't link to, talks about the subsidies and tax write-offs that these companies have been getting for the last century. They're huge.
Yeah, well, they're still huge. $500 billion a year worldwide.
That's pretty huge.
That's pretty huge. We could, if we had $500 billion in Vermont, we could throw one heck of a party. Okay, I want to get to the last item here. We don't have much time. This came from India Live today, and I put this in just because I love this picture. You know, this will tell you where my mind is, where my heart is. And go ahead with the title.
India's smart villages by centralizing solar power.
Yeah, in January, I can't pronounce this. Chhatkai in Orissa became India's first smart village powered by nanogrid technology developed by Sun Moksha. Power. It comes from a 30 kilowatt solar plant.
That's not very big.
Not very big. And sensors collect data on energy usage and system health. It makes it possible to schedule power use and maintenance.
You know, we've talked about India getting electrified.
Right.
But what this article had something to say I didn't know about. India's green energy sector has a tendency to sell and run.
Yes.
Okay, high-end equipment is installed, but a lack of maintenance support for remote villages means the systems often fall into disrepair.
Yeah, and this particular village where you see the little children playing looks like it's pretty remote. Listen, people,
put you back up
we've got to end the program because we've got about 5 seconds left. So I will say goodbye, and so will Tom, even though he's not on camera.
Pull myself up to the camera here.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have a nice week.
We spin and we toil, we work all day, sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die. We dig and drill and waste what we find, break up the earth, leaving little behind, but we will grow lilies in the by and by. I want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land so lovely earth can stay lovely still.